The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight dreary, why I pondered, weak and weary, over a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly came a tapping, as one gently rapping at my chamber door. And 'tis some visitor, I murmured, tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more. Distinctly, I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books a crease of sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore. And this here, forevermore. In the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain filled me fantastic terrors never felt before. So that now, to the still beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance of my chamber door. Some late visitor entreating entrance of a chamber door. That is it, nothing more." Presently, my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," I said, "Madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is, I was napping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, I was scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened the wide door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams of no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back, Lenore. Merely this, and nothing more. Back in the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. "Surely," I said, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what the threat is, and what this mystery implore. Let my heart be still a moment, and let this memory explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more." Here I flung open the shutter, when many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisant made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with a myrrh-nivore or lady perched above my chamber door, perched above a birch of a palace just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. And then this ebony bird, beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the encounterance it wore. "Though thy crest be sworn and shaven, though," I said, "art thou no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, watching from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on thy nightly Plutonian shore." And quoth the raven, "Evermore." Much I marveled this ungainly fowl, to hear the discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little reverency bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever was blessed with seeing a bird above his chamber door. or beast upon the sculpture bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word. As if his soul was in one word he did output. Nothing further then he uttered. Not a feather he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave us, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, Nevermore. Startled at the stillness, broke by reply so aptly spoken. Doubtless, I said, what it utters is only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster till his songs one burden bore, until the drudges of his hope that melancholy burden bore, of never, never more. But the raven still beguiling all my fancy in the smiling trade, I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then, upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy and the fancy, thinking this ominous bird of yore, with this grin, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of lore, meant in croaking nevermore. And this I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, my head at ease reclining, on the cushion's velvet lining the lamp-light gloated o'er, but whose velvet lining with the lamp-light gloating o'er shall she press on nevermore? Then, methought, the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by Saracen, whose footfalls tinkled on the turf floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by the angels he has sent me thee. Respite, and nepenthes from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind of nepenthes, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, I said, this thing of evil, prophet still of bird or devil, whether tempest sent, or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, distillate all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by hour haunted. Tell me truly, I implore, is the palm and Gilead? Tell me this, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, I said, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends us above, that by God we both adore, tell the soul with sorrow laden, if with the distant Aiden, it shall clasp a Satan maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Clasps a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Thee, that word or sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrinked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest, into the night's platorium shore. Leave no black perfume as a token of that lie soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness broken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak out from my heart, and take thy from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flirting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of demons that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And from my soul out the shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted never more.